Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition here of the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you all for tuning in. Happy Friday to you all. To conclude the week, we have another great show. As always, going to be starting off my favorite starts and favorite sits of the week, kind of a newer segment to my Friday shows, but I also will continue talking about some of the biggest games of both the NFL and college football and their ensuing fantasy implications for you this weekend. And as always, to conclude, I give you some fantasy advice, specifically in the stardom cinema department in terms of Sunday Night Football. And that game is going to be a very exciting interconference game between the Lions and the Texans. But before we get into any of that, I do want to remind you, as always, that if you want more content such as this all around the network, not just my show personally, consider liking, following, and subscribing to my show, all the shows and podcasts around the network and the network itself. It's greatly appreciated by all concerned. But if you do want to contribute to my show and others more directly, consider making yourselves available to the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube. You can do one of two things: contribute or interact with the show. You can click that $sign in the comments section, leave a tip or donation, or just leave any burning comments, questions, or concerns you may have throughout the show. They're a great way to get your opinion out on air. I love hearing them as well, and it just makes the show that much better. But without further ado, let's jump into our first segment of the day. As always, I'm going to start off with my favorite starts of the week. As you know, each and every week, I do my positional rankings for every position concern for the upcoming week in fantasy. On Friday, I kind of make a list of all the players at each position who I believe will be viable starts for you. My favorite starts, so to speak, from these lists, maybe outside these lists sometimes, but mostly in my personal rankings, who I believe is my favorite start of the week. And so, without further ado, let us jump right into my favorite starts of the week for week 10. Starting off at the QB position. This one might be a little bit contentious, but I'm sticking with it just because I feel like the way this guy has come into this team and really rejuvenated it is more a testament to his efficiency and how this offense has run under him than anything else. And also how improvement from several other players has affected his elevated style of play. And that is Russell Wilson. And the reason he is here, despite all the things the Commanders have done really well in terms of trade deadline acquisitions. I love that acquisition of Marshawn Lattimore for that secondary. Really strengthens it very deeply. But funnily enough, Russell Wilson isn't the reason that I believe Russell Wilson should be my favorite start of the week or should be someone you should think about starting. I actually think the reason why he's my favorite start this week is because of his team. And specifically his teammates, guys like Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, who we'll talk about a bit later, kind of hinting at who my favorite tight end will be. But the reason why I'm saying Najee Harris should kind of take full responsibility for Russell Wilson being in this position, because he's now opened up a new avenue of this offense for both players. Russell Wilson opens up the avenue for him to run, as he is not as mobile as Justin Fields was in this offense. Thus, Najee Harris has seen an ascension in terms of his production, both in real life and fantasy. And in turn, Najee Harris being so effective on the ground means Russell Wilson is so effective through the air. It means you can get more play action shots. It means you can get more downfield, and thus more explosive plays can come about for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense that seemed very limited under Justin Fields. Already, Russell has more 20-plus yard plays than Justin Fields had in that 6-game span. So as you can see, the reason why Russell's stock is skyrocketing is because of his team and not just his overall play. But I can't not acknowledge how he looks right now and how comfortable he looks in this Steelers team. It just goes to show that some systems work for different guys and some systems don't. And Russ is one of those guys that when he fits, he can work wonders for your team, and we're seeing it with Pittsburgh. And that's the reason why they're going into this game against Washington feeling very confident that they can be the victors. And so that's why I think Russell Wilson should get a lot of credit in the fantasy world and also be considered to be a starter for at the very least this week, maybe potentially beyond as well. Then at the running back position, a guy who's kind of been up and down ever since his kind of renaissance at the running back position. This is someone who is perhaps the best option for his team right now in terms of sustainability on the offensive side of the football, and that is Tyrone Tracy. Now, the thing about Tyrone Tracy is that I feel like the Giants feel as if there's a way forward for Daniel Jones to be the most effective player in this offense, but I'm telling you right now that that's not going to happen. There's no way that Daniel Jones is going to be a leader of this offense. And for what it's worth, I feel like in order for the Giants to have any sort of success, they need that run game, because Daniel Jones' strengths lays in comfortability, lays in a clean pocket, lays in the short to intermediate areas of the field, and those don't get opened up unless you have a solid run game. And Tyrone Tracy has proven he can carry this team in certain moments. He did it against the Steelers. He's done it recent times as well. And if he's given the opportunity, he's going to be a bright star in this bleak Giants season. And so, in this game in Munich, where both of these teams might look a little iffy, not just because of how terrible they already are, but because, of the time change and the acclimation period it will take, someone feels like they'll have an opportunity to take over. So why not Tyrone Tracy? I know that the Panthers defense has been, looking a bit better over these past couple of weeks, but they haven't really played anyone significant. And the Giants have proven they can have solid offensive games in them if both the run game and passing game complement each other well. So look for Tyrone Tracy to be a special player in Munich and beyond, because he already is. He just needs the opportunity. So that's the reason why I feel like Tyrone Tracy can be a sneaky start, or in a deeper league, someone as your RB2 flex player in Week 10. Now for the wide receiver position, this one's an easy one. It's Cooper Kupp. Now, ever since his return, Cooper Kupp has really kind of rejuvenated this team, and he always has been someone who doesn't necessarily need to catch the football, be targeted as often as people think. He is someone who can help this Rams team in many different ways by opening avenues for guys like Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua to shine. And it really showed in their win over Seattle in that a lot of players contributed, and even when Puka Nacua got ejected from that game, there was a lot of good that came from certain players that stepped up. So look for that continuing to happen. But against the Dolphins, this is going to be a very intriguing matchup against perhaps one of the best secondaries in the NFL, or a highly underrated one at that. You're going to have to find and choose your matchups here, because even though the Rams feel like they will have the upper hand, I feel like the Dolphins are a team that, while seemingly middling in almost every defensive metric, still on paper has one of the better defenses in the league. And they are good enough to really limit what you can do best. And at certain points in that Seattle game, this Rams offense was exposed, even in moments where both Kupp and Nacua were on the field at the same time. So there are ways that you can slow down this Rams offense, and the Dolphins could be a surprisingly well-equipped team to do just that. But the reason why I can't ignore Cooper Kupp in this week is because of his ability to be that X factor. He's always the difference maker. He always tries ways to find and get open. So I can't really say that the Dolphins on every single play will have him accounted for because of his effectiveness in getting open no matter what it takes. And that's a special receiver and someone who, from a fantasy perspective, could be highly valuable for you. Then at the tight end position, another Pittsburgh Steeler, Pat Freiermuth. This is a matchup that I really love for Pat Freiermuth. He can get physical. He can get gritty. And even though that linebacking core has been playing very well, I really like that partnership of Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu for Washington. Bobby Wagner's looking like his 2013 Legion of Boom self right now. But they haven't seen someone like Pat Freiermuth, I don't think. Someone who, now in this very diversified Pittsburgh offense with the addition of Mike Williams to this squad, you're going to get a lot of opportunities for little checkdowns, little chunk gains for a player of Pat Freiermuth's caliber. So if you're the Commanders and you're not wary of what he can do in short yardage situations, look out, because he's not just someone who can exploit your zone coverage, exploit your linebackers. He's someone who can get yards after the catch for you as well. And that's something that I feel like Russell Wilson is going to look at in this game. Can I effectively work the middle of the field as well to really diversify this offense and really hurt this Commanders defense? And so that's why I feel like Pat Freiermuth should be paid attention to from a fantasy perspective this week. And then last but not least, the defense that I think will be shining this weekend is the Bills against the Colts. And the reason I think this way is because I think about Joe Flacco and Tua, funnily enough, in a very similar manner, in that while Tua feels more mobile, they do similar things. They want to hit the deep ball, they want to be aggressive downfield, but some of their limitations stem from not being able to create outside of structure. And we saw that with Joe against the Vikings this week, where he really did not look comfortable when the Vikings generated pressure. So look for the Bills, who have done exceptional work against teams that, don't have mobile quarterbacks or have good receiving cores, but don't necessarily have the opportunity to get them separation against certain defenses. They can key in on that. And that's what I think is the key for this Bills defense going forward. Because chances are, week in, week out, opposing offenses are going to be privy to what your game plan is. But what the Bills have shown is that week by week they can change. And in a matchup like this, I can't look past them. Let me know what you think of the comments, because those are all my favorite starts for the week. Coming up next, we transition to the sits, the guys who you might have to bench for this week in fantasy. So you don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.